Peace, everyone. It's your girl Siquoyia Blue. We are back in here with another episode on this beautiful day. Today's special guest is Tamika Murray. She's award-winning author, freelance writer, and life coach. And during these times, we a lot of us may need a life coach. We need an accountability partner, someone that can help us out, especially now. I'm sure everybody was up, eating popcorn and worried about election and stuff, trying to figure out their lives. So we probably need to call a coach like Tamika to hook us up. So, Tamika, you started your business, Mystical Fire Ascension. Can you tell us the story behind that name, what it represents in your coaching philosophy?
Okay, well, the name kind of just came to me because when I first started life coaching, or when I was being guided towards starting a life coaching business, I had a different name. Which I liked at the time, and it fit where I was in my life at that moment. But through, trials, tribulations, and life just lifing, I decided that it wasn't enough. It wasn't an honest reflection of where I was. So Mystical Fire was inspired by the mythological creature, the phoenix, and the phoenix rising from the ashes. And if anybody looks at my logo, they will notice that I have a phoenix on my logo, because I feel as though I've gone through so many changes and rebirths in my life, but the one that I'm going through now, that really started in 2022, that's been the most significant one, and it hasn't stopped. It just continues. So that's where Mystical Fire comes into play. And I can honestly say that I embody the spirit of the phoenix, and I try to bring that energy to the people that I service, whether they're, my life coaching clients, whether they're receiving a natal chart reading, tarot reading, it doesn't matter. And even people that I come in, contact with through this new venture that I actually started when I moved to Boston. Just having conversations with people can really create an impact, depending on the person and whether they're open to receiving certain information.
Wow, I love it. So, what is your coaching approach? Because, everybody's different. They got different beliefs, I like astrology, I like tarot cards and stuff. I mean, how do you what if you feel like, oh, this person needs a tarot card reading? How do you introduce that to them, or astrology?
Well, the way that I had, because the way that I conduct my sessions has changed and evolved since I've been changing and evolving. And so I used to have it built in to my readings with people, like their introductory session with me. It would include a little mini tarot reading, and I would request that they send me their natal chart information before I actually did a session with them. I no longer require it. It's an option when they go to the form to complete it, whether or not they want to have that included in their session, but it's no longer my driving force at this point. But if they're open to it, I'm absolutely down with doing a little mini reading and using astrology, because I feel like we were given these tools for a reason, and they can be very helpful, peeling back the layers of what you came here to accomplish, what your soul wanted to do in this lifetime, what type of transformation it's been trying to guide you to. Because, I'm a firm believer that we all came here for a reason. Earth is a school, and that, God, source, whatever term you want to use, is within us. We're sparks of source. We all are. We are all gods and goddesses. And that higher form of ourself that we've been cut off from for so long is finally awakening in all of us. And so the divine is always trying to guide us towards becoming the best version of ourselves and satisfying those things that we wanted to experience here, because life on earth was not meant to be just work, death, family, and taxes. That's just the worst.
I feel that, because you're going on TikTok and you see people just freaking out, like they're in their car and they're like, ah, you know, and they're just saying, this is how it is. This is how it's supposed to be. And,
And
you
no,
know,
it's not. There's just so much more.
no.
There's so much more, and this path that I've been on, you know, I tell people that my spiritual awakening, it didn't start in 2022, but it got accelerated in 2022. But it really started for me. I don't consider myself to be the type of person that was always completely asleep. And I had this conversation with someone a few days ago. I basically said, and I stand by what I said to him, that if you were born in type of a minority, you tend to question a lot of things from the jump. You know, that's just ingrained in how life has been programmed for us and the way we move in this, I call it a matrix that we live in.
Oh man.
And you know, it's just, you know, you tend to question everything. So for me, I never thought that I was completely asleep. You know, even as a kid, I never felt like a kid. I always felt much more mature and older than I was. And I believe that's because we come here and we're living multiple lives, you know, each time we come here. And I also believe that time is really an illusion, and that the concept of time, I feel like the past, present, and the future is happening simultaneously. So,
oh man, I can concur with that. I mean, everything everywhere all at once, like the movie. It's like, is it the way time is going? It's like, wait a minute, it was just Monday, but then what? Like, even as somebody with a regular job, you're still like, dang, time is just going fast, but is it in my mind? Like, I be thinking about stuff like that. Like, am I making it go faster? Am I making it go slower? Like,
and you know, it's interesting that you say that, because again, I believe, and I'm not the only one, there's plenty of people out there that believe the same thing that I do, that we create our own reality in our thoughts, you know, and how you feel about yourself, how you view the world has a huge impact on what you believe is possible for yourself. And because so many people in certain groups, whether it be women, whether it be African Americans, whether it be Hispanic people, it doesn't matter. We've all been subjugated to or subject to programming, certain programming. And I told this one guy, because I do a lot of moving around now, like, and a lot of traveling with what I'm doing here in Boston. And I had a very good conversation with my Lyft driver on Friday. And by the end of it, I told him, I was like, you know, I don't believe in coincidences. And I firmly believe that you and I were supposed to cross paths, and that I was sent here to help awaken you, to get you to start doing that inner work on yourself. Because I basically flat out said to him, if you were programmed to think so less of yourself, you can reprogram yourself to think very highly of yourself, and to truly know and trust that anything is possible for you.
I like that you said that, because, you know, you hear the word imposter syndrome all the time. And
which I
used to go with it. I used to say, oh, it's there, but what if it's not real? What if you do belong there? Like, you do belong in that job, you do belong in that relationship, and you just made your mind believe and morph, you know, because the mind is a powerful thing. Even, you know, all types of science say that our minds can warp so much stuff. You can believe I don't know, grandiose stories in the world, and you just believe it because you believe it, and it just starts manifesting itself. And I think that at times I'd be like, no, I can't just get this or that. But when I really want it and put my mind to it, oh, it comes. But if I don't really want it and I'm just talking smack, I don't get it. You know, I mean,
I love that.
Yeah, I don't get it, because sometimes I'll just be like, oh, I want to do that, but I don't really want to do that. I'm like, I don't think I didn't really want that, you know, because in your 20s, you're told you're gonna go to college, you gotta do this, you gotta get the husband, you gotta get the picket fence, you gotta get the dog, you gotta travel, you gotta look good, and it's like, you realize you ain't even want all that stuff. You want a certain some of it, you know, but you realize that's not even me. And I think, how can someone tap into who they are and say, okay, This is me. This is what I want. I don't really want this. And even though friends, families nudging them, you got to do this, you got to do that. How can people quiet themselves and tap into their higher selves and say, okay, this is what I want to do?
I would say, and some people are not going to like my answer, is become more selfish, because we've all been
Mm.
trained, especially women. And I'm gonna just say this because right now I'm in the form I chose to come in as an African American woman in this particular lifetime.
Mhm.
I'm gonna say, from the basis of being an African American woman, we're very much programmed to put everybody above ourselves, to always be a workhorse, to always be strong, and
Mhm.
forget about all the pain and suffering that you go through here, because heaven's supposed to be your reward. And
Mhm.
I totally go completely against that. I'm somebody
Yeah.
who went to
Yeah.
Catholic school for 12 years,
Oh.
and I don't buy into that. Yeah. Had a lot of
Mhm.
deprogramming and reprogramming to do.
Oh man,
I
sound like
yes.
me.
And I mean, don't get, and here's the thing, don't get me wrong, I'm not religious anymore. And yet,
Mhm.
because of the fact that my birthday is so close to Christmas, it's 2 days before Christmas, I still celebrate
Mm.
Christmas because I
Oh
like the
yeah. Yeah.
season, because I like the
Me too.
festivities, I like the gift exchange, I
Mhm.
like the music, I like the decorations, I like all of that. But to me, it doesn't have to be a religious thing by any means.
Yes.
And, you know, I would go even further to say that we're in a season or an era of awakening to our Christ consciousness,
Mm.
meaning the consciousness of awakening to our true power. And there's a lot more to it than that, but yeah, that's definitely
Yeah.
something that I'm into. So.
Yeah, because it's like more than just woke. The term woke has been pushed around, and it's woke is doesn't mean woke like diversity DEI. Woke means you're tapping into the senses around you. You're tapping into the tree. You're connecting with, I don't know, your
Yes.
dog. You're coming like what people are talking about. Like that's what woke means. It's like Erica Badu said it, on CNN and stuff, and nobody listened to her. Like that is what woke means, and that can help you figure out who the heck you are.
And becoming more selfish, not only that,
Yeah.
what I mean by becoming more selfish is literally learning to put yourself first. And so many
Mhm.
women have a difficult time doing that. They have a
They
difficult time
do.
showing themselves self-love. They have a difficult time encouraging themselves and just telling themselves, I love you, like looking themselves in the mirror, doing that mirror work and just saying, I love you, flaws and
Yeah.
all, and just being comfortable with who you are.
Mhm.
And that plays a huge role in being able to tap into your gifts, because source,
Mhm.
again, we were never meant to
Mhm.
live this way. I'm going to go
No,
back
it's
to that again. We were never
no,
meant
we can.
to live this way, and we've given our power away for so long, and we do it all the time because that's what we were told to do. We give away our power to, in a sense, our partners, depending on whether or not the relationship is
Mhm.
functional or dysfunctional. You can
Mhm.
give away your power to a job that you hate. You might stay there because it pays well, but deep inside your
Yeah.
soul is crying for you to do something else. And I've experienced, and I talk the talk because I've experienced all of this stuff. Like everything that I'm talking about, I've experienced it
Oh, wait a minute.
myself. So
Mhm.
that's why I can say, you have to get more comfortable with putting yourself first. And I'm still in the process of learning to do that. I consider myself to be a very powerful manifester, but there's still some
Mhm.
things that I'm working on internally because of things that I've experienced, whether it was in my childhood, adolescence, or even,
Mhm.
in adulthood. So becoming more
Yeah.
selfish and putting yourself first, that is one of the key things that you can start doing to tap in and by doing that, setting aside time for yourself. And I know it can be tricky
Mhm.
for people, especially if you're a single mother. I was raised by
Yes.
one, but
Oh man.
she was very fortunate. We lived with my maternal grandparents, the majority of the time that I was being raised. So she had that support system. She really did. And not all single
Mm.
mothers, or even single fathers, because they do exist, don't have that all of the time. So it can be
Yeah.
tricky for them. But I will say that for a lot of people, if they really got honest with themselves and wrote down what they do in a day, you can still somehow find 5, 10, 15 minutes to set aside time to either go outside, to ground yourself, because I love grounding myself barefoot. Like
Yes.
I now that I don't live in South Jersey anymore, and I gave that up to take this huge leap of faith and move to Boston, I don't have that anymore. So I've had to get creative. So when my schedule permits it, which thankfully this week is like my lull. It's a nice little break because I was just ripping and
Well, good.
roaring and going from this place and that place for the past few weeks, which I love the work that I'm
Wow.
doing. It's just, it's been
Oh, yeah.
tiresome. And
Man, I can
going to the
imagine.
park, yeah, going to the park and just getting barefoot and being around Gaia, nature, it's just, it's very, very healing. It's very healing. But if you're not able to do that, which I get it, just setting aside time to do something as simple as taking a bath. I encourage every
Man.
woman, if you have a tub in your home,
Mhm.
take a spiritual bath at least once a week
Yes.
and just soak.
Yes.
Connect with your
Mhm.
ancestors, connect with spirit, just
Yeah. Even
allow
yoni steams.
yourself. Yes, just
Yes.
let it
And that,
go and just pamper
mhm.
yourself. Get back into the habit of pampering yourself and being allowing yourself to be feminine, because femininity looks different on every woman, and
It
even
does.
men have, we all have a masculine and feminine side. But
Mhm.
again, the way that this reality has been set up, we've all been kind of programmed to be more in our dysfunctional masculine divine energy and not like the healed,
Mhm.
like balanced out energy that we should be in. So yeah, just
Yeah, I
finding
like that
time to
because
put
it's
yourself first can work wonders. And I'm a firm believer in meditation and breath work. They go
oh
hand in
yeah.
hand, as well as yoga. So
Oh yes, that definitely does help. The meditation and yoga. I mean, that
mm,
more women need to start doing that because it's a lot of stress on us, and you're right on that. Like especially with women with traumas, like you just said, that they haven't.
yeah.
I mean, like Viola Davis said that she has to, talk to the little girl. The little girl never goes away. It's the little
Hmm.
girl's always there, and I thought that was deep to say. You
Yeah.
know, like it just doesn't just get pushed away. It's just gone. She's always there. Whatever happened, you just got to tell her, nope, not today. You
Mhm.
know, and that's a part of the meditation process and the healing. So that makes
Yeah,
sense.
I mean, my inner child, depending on which age it is, she likes to she likes sugar. She likes processed sugar, which I know is not good for you at all.
Oh
And
man.
women tend to ingest a lot of processed sugar, especially if you like those
Yeah.
sugary coffee drinks from like
Oh man.
Starbucks or
That's
in here in
me.
Massachusetts, we love our Dunkin'. I do love
Oh
my Dunkin'
goodness.
Donuts. We do love
Dunkin'
Dunkin' up
Donuts
here.
used to be good back
But
in Georgia, but
yeah, like I mean, it's just the sugar. That's what she likes, and so I have to allow myself to just, kind of work it in with my diet, because I got very restrictive with myself when my
mm,
spiritual acceleration started happening. I was doing so much detoxing. I was doing a lot of fasting.
wow.
I'm still gravitating more towards eating plant-based foods, but
Oh
occasionally I
man.
had to give myself grace and be like, I'm not at that point where I'm ready to take the full leap into a plant-based diet and be okay with that and not like ridicule myself for it.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I mean, I try to just be kinder to myself. It's
Oh
not
man.
always
Yeah.
possible when you're busy, but I try my best. I really do. And that's all
I
any
like
of us
that.
really can do. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's like an ebb and flow, I would call it. It's an ebb and
Mm,
flow. So it's not that you're like, oh, I made it, and this is how say, it's just an ebb and flow. I mean, for me, it helps me not to then. I'm more like I jumped into stoicism. I know
Okay.
everybody doesn't agree on that, but works for me because I noticed when I used to tell everybody my problems like in my 20s, it didn't make me feel better. I mean, you got one or two people that were
Mm-hmm.
sages that help you out, but most of the time I wasn't, that didn't help me. So now I just talk to myself. I'll say, that's what we're gonna do, and that's what we're gonna do, and you need to be quiet. Or I'll just tell myself stuff like, hey, you ain't right, shut up, go do this, don't, that's not real. Because sometimes
And
you
you know
gotta tell
what? I
yourself
do
it's
the
not
same
real.
thing. Yeah, I do the same thing, and it's interesting how things have changed. How things have changed when I started allowing myself to just be the person that I am, and work on the perfectionism that I grew so accustomed to striving for. Because I mean, the high school that I went to, their motto when I went there was striving for excellence. So to
Oh,
have that as your school's motto, um, I was already the type of kid that most people, I've even been called an overachiever because of all the different interests and things that I've done. But I don't honestly like that
wow.
title. I don't like that title because I
Yeah,
feel
me
like
neither.
it has a negative connotation to it. And honestly,
Yeah,
we should all be achieving whatever we want to do. But the problem
yeah.
is that a lot of people don't have the courage, or they don't think it's going to work out in their favor, or they have a fear of success. And I did not realize that a
Oh,
fear of success was a real thing, but it
I
is.
didn't.
It's just like a fear of failure and a fear of success, because you get to that point where you're like, okay, I literally have like everything that I wanted, and you tend
Mm,
to get paranoid that it's going to go away, or that, something bad is going to happen, because again, that's how we've been programmed. So, and your mind, and
man,
like you said,
that's
your mind is
hard.
very powerful. So if you focus on something long enough, you really can attract it to you. You can align to it, which is a scary thing. But then that also shows
Mm,
you how powerful we really are individually. Because if you can attract something negative into your life, well, then guess what? You can
mm.
attract the most wonderful, glorious things into your life as well. So it works both ways.
Oh man, I love that. And that made me think about this other topic about, like, you ever met some people that say they can't sit by themselves, they can't sit alone, right? They always got to be
Mhm.
around someone. They can't sit
Yeah.
in their own thoughts.
Mhm.
What do you say to those people? Because I think that's not a good thing.
It comes into the codependency, which again, I've gone through that myself, so I can speak about it. Um, I feel like it was a catch-22 growing up, because I was raised as an only child. I was, but
Mm,
I was born at a time where my mother, who was one of five, and she has a twin brother that she left behind. She's been gone almost it'll be 8 years on November 26th. And
mm,
she and her siblings all had like kids back to back to back to back. So I had a lot of cousins. We were very close growing up. So I
mm,
would go through phases where I would be surrounded by like all this family. Our house in Atlantic City was the hot spot where all the relatives would come, like during the holidays, during the cookouts. We
mm,
would either have family coming down from New York, because my family was, from Harlem in the Bronx, or my
mm.
nana's family. She was originally, before she moved to Harlem when she was 14. Her family is in the Florida, like Tampa, Jacksonville area. So I was surrounded by family growing up, which it's not a bad thing. It's just that at the same time, there were times where I wanted my solitude, and then when I got it,
Mm.
it was kind of like, oh, like this is what it feels like to be an only child. So it's like I've kind of experienced both. Um, and I can honestly say that, you kind of do become codependent on people. But again, codependency in and of itself, we weren't using that term years ago. We were just basically saying we were surrounded by family and friends. Like, and then all of a sudden, this independence of not being around your family kind of became the in thing. And I don't necessarily
Yeah.
agree with that. I feel like, and especially again, minorities and people from different ethnic backgrounds, family is a huge part of their world.
Yeah.
It definitely
Mhm.
is. But I can also see how constantly having certain family members coming and pulling on your energy and your time is not
Yeah.
necessarily healthy either. And we, as a society, we've kind of gotten really bad with setting boundaries with family members.
Mhm.
So, yeah, for people that struggle with being alone, I empathize with you because if that's what you grew up with, especially in my grandmother's time, like she was born in 32. Both my maternal grandparents were born in 32. My grandfather's been gone since '03, but she's still here. She's still here. She has bad dementia, but she's still here. And,
Oh,
in her day, it was just normal to constantly, I want to say, like, give your last to your family and always
oh,
have them around and always, doing everything you can for them. And again, comes back to the Black female putting yourself last.
yep.
And when it comes to the codependency and not being able to be by yourself, it's going to take some time. And again, I don't even like using the word time. It becomes practice. You have to reprogram yourself because it's a behavioral thing.
Yes.
It really is. And some people
Mhm.
don't see it as a positive thing, having so much time to themselves when it can really be very beneficial. And I went through
Mhm.
that myself because I was in 2022 at when my spiritual acceleration started. I went through a breakup with someone that we were we broke up 1 month short of our 6 year anniversary and we were living together. So I found myself for the first time in my life being single. And then I bought a house, moved out of his. I was both single and my mother wasn't here. And that had never happened before because
Mhm.
I was with him when she passed away. So feeling that, it really
Mhm.
hit me, being solo and what that really feels like. And I felt it. I felt every bit of it.
Yeah.
And went through a lot.
Wow.
I went through a lot during that time. A lot of dark nights of the soul, which you can
Mhm.
go through them at multiple times in your life. It's not just a one and done type of thing. But I
Mhm.
went through a lot, and all I can say for somebody who's struggling to get to know themselves, you're not alone because I've been through it and there's plenty of people going through it right now as well. But
Mhm.
if you're able to switch your mindset and start thinking about all the things that you wanted to try and do years ago, maybe when you were a kid or when you were a teenager, but you weren't allowed to. Maybe you were told
Mhm.
by a parent that you shouldn't do that, you shouldn't pursue this. Start finding hobbies that you can do. Think outside the box, basically. If you
There.
had told me 3, 4 years ago that I'd be living in Boston solo right now, I probably would have called you crazy and said, oh, hell no. Like, what? Boston? Like, what?
Boston.
And like,
Yeah.
what led me here? That's a story in and of itself. And I'm just like, it's it's been an interesting journey, but and then even what happened when I got here, the way that I've like pivoted and shifted my focus career wise, that's been interesting. And I'm having a lot of fun with it
Mhm.
too, because I will say my life coaching is there, but it's not my main focus right now. I've actually shifted
Yeah.
gears a bit. And even writing, yes, I've done 2 books already this year. Nope, 3.
Yeah, I was just about to ask you about that. I
I
was
will
gonna
say
ask
I've done
you.
3. 2 of them haven't come out yet. One of them came out earlier this year. Because when I
Wow.
write fast. I do outlines and I write fast. And they tend to be
What?
shorter books. Yeah,
Oh, it's
they tend
shorter.
to be short books. The majority of the books that I've published have been nonfiction children's books. And so when you have an
Oh.
outline and everything, they can be written depending on the age group and the reading level, they can be short books. They can be. But yeah, I've definitely changed a lot, and I'm taking chances on things that I never thought I would have really had the opportunity or the self-esteem to do. But
Oh, I
I'm
love
very
that.
happy with what I'm doing right now. So
I can tell. So, I mean, your books, your slew of books, this is totally exciting, you know. I mean,
yeah.
how did you, I guess, get the writing on paper? Like, how did you what's the process of writing, your books?
And I'm glad you asked that because the most recent self-published book that I did, which is just an ebook form, I didn't even do paperback because the book's not that long, but it answers the question in the title, which is put down the phone, picked up the pen, how I wrote 10 books in 3 years. So yeah.
Ooh,
And
that's amazing.
I basically tell people what inspired me. My first book, which was Crying, Learning, and Laughing Why Students Visit the Teen Center, that was based on my time as a case manager in New Jersey, in Atlantic County, in a high school where I was a case manager in a school-based youth services program or a teen center. And
Mm,
I had a ball there. I'm so grateful that I had that experience. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but it taught me a lot, and I had a lot of fun when I was doing it. I wore a lot of hats, which I loved because I tend to thrive in environments where I'm constantly, moving and grooving, and because I do get bored very easily because I like
oh,
learning new things. I just do.
I love
And
it.
yeah, I mean, it keeps life very, very interesting because I knew even when I was younger that I couldn't never see myself doing one thing for the rest
Yeah.
of my life. To me, that just sounded so boring and so drab.
And
It's
it
so
sounded like
sad too.
you feel like you're in this box and you're stuck, like,
Yes,
because when I was growing up, that's what they told me. Focus on one
yeah,
thing. You gotta focus on one thing. And when I started seeing success when I didn't focus on one thing, I started focusing on other
exactly.
things too. And that's how I started seeing stuff. It's like now I'm like, I'm gonna do what I want to do. And is it for
Yeah.
everybody? Probably not. I don't think everybody can be what they call it multi hyphenate, multi passionate, or
Hmm.
or a polymath. I found out what a polymath was too. It's not. I didn't know that the polymath was different from the multi hyphenate. I didn't even know. The polymath is someone that excels in each endeavor they're in, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know that. So, because one of my guests she's a polymath researcher, and I said that's interesting because I
Hmm.
always thought as more people opening up to it, like you said, this awakening, and I think it's cool because now it's like, okay, people can feel comfortable, and especially the Gen Zs can stand 10 toes down to say, okay, I can be a writer, I can be a life coach, and I can be
Hmm.
all these things. So,
And I was gonna
yeah.
say, now, I mean, I'll say like what I'm doing. Like I'm having a lot of fun. I had always been told when I was growing up, because I'm 5'6", I've always been very petite. It's a family treat. I can still buy my clothes in the junior section if I want to. And I was
Well, that's good.
always told growing up, like, you should do modeling. Like, why aren't you doing modeling and stuff? And it was something that I wanted to pursue, but I just didn't have the confidence. And it's a shame too, because like I look at pictures of myself from when I was a teenager and when I was younger, and I'm like, I don't know why. Well, actually, I do know why. I do know why. I know why now I lacked the confidence. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
still working on my confidence, to be honest with you. But I decided to give being a brand ambassador and a promotional model a try. And I'm honestly loving it. It's something different. And I'm finding that so many doors and opportunities have opened up for me. And I will encourage anyone to give it a try, especially if they want to even do it as a side gig, because there is no age
Mm-hmm.
limit to it. There's no age limit. In fact, I found a sister on Instagram who's in her 40s, and she does it. She still works in the
Oh,
corporate world full time, but then she does like all these really fun events like on the sides on the weekends when she can. And it for me it worked out very well, and I'll explain why. Because I'm brand new to Boston. I literally just moved here on September 14th, and I have one friend, and she lives in Cambridge with her family. And Cambridge isn't
Oh,
that far away from where I am in Boston. I'm in the Brighton section. And she she's been great, but I was like, I'm never going to be one of those people that relies on just one person, to like do everything
no.
with. So
Yeah.
being a brand ambassador has been fun because I get paid, I get to
Hmm.
travel, go to different events, I get to
Yeah.
learn about my city, and I get to just have conversations with people and meet people, and it's
Yeah.
fun. So it checks off a lot of boxes for me. And it's really nice. And I've been applying also to actually to do modeling work, so that's the next step
Yeah,
for me.
you
And
can.
I was told years ago when I did kind of like try just to see that they basically said, well, too short for a high fashion, which I don't care. Like high fashion, I'd
Yeah.
rather go to a fashion show, a high fashion
Mhm.
show than to, I mean, I don't want to jinx myself, but I feel like I have more of a commercial or even a print look, and that's fine by me.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
care. But the point is, at least I'm trying something new and I'm taking a chance, and it's working out well for me. It really is, because it goes by what I was saying early. We put limits on ourselves, and if we stopped doing that, just imagine what you'd be able to accomplish.
Man, I'm trying to tell you, and it's okay to do stuff scared. I mean, I do
Yeah.
stuff scared all the time. Because if you don't tell me I'd have been
Oh,
podcasting at this age, like you said about the others that you're going to Boston by yourself, I would have laughed. I'd have said, "Me podcasting? No, I'm too scared to talk. I can't do that." And here I am, now going on but 4 years, and so I think this anybody listen, just go and do it. I mean, because at the end of the day, we only look, we got one life in this dimension. We come back, we don't
mhm.
know. We're gonna may not be ourselves. I believe we could come back. We ain't gonna be us. So we only got one time, and this moment is who we
Yeah,
are. And I think we should just eat it all, and do it
exactly.
scared, because nobody knows everything. Everybody's trying to figure it out, and that's how I look at it. And like you said earlier about believing coincidences and connecting the dots and stuff, like um when you go after something, you start seeing that things are connecting to you. Everything connects, and you're like, oh, okay, this happened. Oh, okay, I got the answer from this person. She don't even know me, but she told me my answer. Like all these things connect. So I totally agree with that. Like it's one of those things.
Yeah. And I find that the more I start loving myself and the more positive I am consistently, my outer world reflects that. So that's why I
Mm.
don't focus on a lot of negative things. I really don't. If something happens to me, I allow myself to be in that moment and feel what I feel. But then I also give myself permission to come out of that bad feeling. And I think a lot of
Yeah.
people don't do that. And I used to
Mm.
call myself an emotional cutter, meaning I would, intentionally like listen to sad, like as a teenager, especially, like, listen
Yeah.
to sad songs and, all that
Mhm.
stuff. But I'm a firm believer that everything you listen to, everything you even watch, just us having this
Mhm.
conversation, there's an energy exchange. So I'm
Yes.
very mindful. Yes, I'm very mindful of what I watch. Like I used to be a huge film buff. I've seen so many films.
Yeah, I
And
love
don't get me
movies too.
wrong, I still have a special place in my heart for films. Especially I used to be a huge like Marvel fan, especially like anything
Oh,
with
yes. I
superhero
love that.
movies. And
Mhm.
I don't watch them nearly as much as I used to. And sometimes that kind of makes me feel a little
Oh.
sad, like, dang, like, the old me used to love some of these things. But when you go through a spiritual awakening, there are certain elements of yourself that you either leave behind, um, or they just evolve into something else.
Mhm.
So I find that a lot of times now, instead of just sitting back and watching a film or a TV show, I'll focus more on myself and like my social media and the content that I filmed. I'd rather be looking at myself and just giving my energy to myself instead of somebody else. So
That's good. I mean, I think,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people that's not movies and TV people and at
Mhm.
least you're doing something you want to do and you're talking to the audience and letting people get to know you. And social media is a tough thing. So that's good that you're like brave to go and speak on every day and talk about what you're doing because a lot of people right now are having issues with social media. They're scared, they're nervous and they're trying to get their product out there and stuff. So it is good to be able to talk every day about what you're trying to do and get people to know about your work because they want to feel a connection, you know?
They do. And I like being able to, I gave myself permission to not always trying to look like perfect when I'm on social media either, and to
Yes.
just be honest, because that, when you're
Hmm.
just yourself and authenticity, that's really when you start attracting things into your reality. So me allowing myself to be in the business that I'm doing now with the modeling and the brand ambassador and all of that stuff, that's just in alignment with where I'm supposed to be right now. And that's why I know that things are working out and they're going to continue to work out.
Yes, I love it. So I wanted to also ask you, what is your favorite book that you've written so far and your favorite chapter in that book?
Ooh, all right. Well, you know what? Thankfully, I always have copies of my book because I'm in my
That's
office
right.
right now. Even though like the cat stands, it's like the cat room slash the
Oh
office right
yeah.
now. But it is this book. It's my first book, The Crying, Learning, and Laughing, which I talked about before. And
Ooh.
it is my favorite book. I call it my baby because it's the book that made me a published author. It's not actually the first book I ever
Mm.
wrote. Um, I still have that manuscript. I just haven't published it. But as
Mm.
far as like my favorite chapter in this book, that's a good question. Let me see.
Any good
Let me see.
ones?
Because that kind of caught me off guard. It is because I feel like I just enjoyed writing this book so much
Yes.
because it allowed me to just showcase the teen center and how much it meant to me. I have so many memories working with those kids, because working with teens and adolescents and children and really
Yeah.
families, that was always my
Mhm.
specialty. Because when I went to school, because I have 2 degrees, I have one in English literature with a concentration in creative writing, and then I also have one in social work with a concentration in child welfare. And
Mm.
so yeah, I know. They're like night and day.
That's good
But
though. That's good.
yeah, and I can honestly say I would maybe my favorite chapter was probably the bullying. I feel like it's the bullying one for various reasons because I don't like bullying. I've
Mm.
been bullied before as both a child and
Me
an
too.
adolescent and even an adult in workplaces
Oh,
and
yeah.
stuff. Like,
Oh man.
it tends to happen. And unfortunately, I've had to catch myself in the past instances of me unintentionally bullying other people and not
Mm.
realizing that's what I was doing. So it goes
It's
both
true.
ways. Anybody can be both,
Yeah.
a victim of bullying, but they can also be the one that's instilling the bullying as well. So for me,
Mhm.
chapter 8, which is called Bullying and What You Can Do About It, the beginning part references the scene from A Christmas Story where Ralphie
I love that
snaps
movie.
on Scott Farkus and just starts wailing on him and everything. And I used that as my introduction to the chapter because
Oh
that
wow.
scene was so realistic to me as a kid, for the
Mm.
people that I went
Yeah.
to school with, who may not have necessarily even known that they were bullying me, but just certain comments, certain behaviors, how kids can be.
Oh
Um,
man.
yeah,
I know it. I've been through I've been through it.
yeah. So
No
I'm just
joke.
like
I don't want to
that
be in
that
school again, okay? I'm done.
yeah, that scene right there, just it left an imprint. And even like when I watched that
Mhm.
movie today, I'm just like, yeah, like I know how he felt to just need that
Yes.
relief. And I'm not encouraging violence by any
Mm-mm.
means, but I can understand how you can get to that point where you just want to beat the crap out of somebody because of the way
Oh
that they
man.
treated you. So yeah, that's why this particular chapter. And then I give tips on like I use like a student that, you know, I didn't use like names or anything like that. I wanted to make sure that I changed a lot of details, certain details, to
Oh
make sure
yeah.
that you couldn't recognize like who the student was. Sometimes some of them are like combinations of multiple students, but I gave them like numbers, like student one, student two, that type of thing. And yeah, I really do. I love this chapter because it talks about, you know, the impact that it has on teens, especially with cyberbullying. Cyberbullying is
Oh Lordy.
vicious. And I'm so
Yikes.
grateful that the internet was still in its infancy when I was a teenager. Like,
Yeah,
I
I
didn't
was
get my first
good.
computer until I was a junior in high school, and that was in '98, I think. So,
Oh wow.
yeah, I wasn't dealing with the same stuff that a
Yeah,
lot of these kids have to deal with, just
me neither. We just had Yahoo.
camera phones and
Yahoo.
social media, and people really betraying them in the most vicious way, you know, getting
Yeah, I was
recorded
like,
and not realizing it. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, like
yeah, I'm happy
having
I'm not a
lives.
kid right now. I know some
Yeah,
people want to be back in high school and element. I'm happy to be where I'm at.
yes,
I don't want
please.
to go back to that. So before we close out, I have two
Uh-huh.
final questions. So the
Okay.
first one is a would you rather question, and then I'm ask the final last question. Okay.
Okay. Go ahead.
Would you rather spend a week traveling to new places without any access to technology, or stay home for a week with unlimited access to all your favorite books and writing materials?
I guess since I've already done the one where I'm home and have access, and because I was literally in what you would call a spiritual isolation for quite some time, I would choose the traveling one. I would definitely choose the traveling one because I
Yes.
feel like I started to feel like a houseplant. I started to feel like a houseplant when I was going through my spiritual isolation, and it was necessary. And I'm grateful that
Yeah.
I had it. It's just that I'm in a season of my life right now where I just want to travel as much as possible. So,
I
because
love
I
it.
literally just, um, are you familiar with the TV show Karamo Brown? I got to be in the audience for 2 days.
No, I
Um,
didn't see that one.
yeah, it's on NBC Peacock. So definitely check it
Oh,
out.
I
You can
love
look at
Peacock.
clips on YouTube as well, because the episodes that I'm in the audience are actually now live on YouTube.
Oh, cool.
And
That is cool.
yeah, so like I got to spend 2 days in Stamford, Connecticut, and that was fun. So, you know, I'm
CT.
open. Yeah, I'm just open to new experiences. And I will say I like Karamo because he has a background in social work. He has a social work
Mm.
degree, and he uses his skills when he's dealing with his the people that are on his show. And girl, the tea
Oh,
the
I
tea
have to check
is
out that show. I'm gonna check that out.
very
I got
interesting.
Peacock
Yes, please do.
because anybody
So
know me. I'm a show and movie lover, so I just
okay,
love it.
yeah, I
And the
could
last
definitely recommend
title.
some good ones to you.
Oh yes, please email me about some good ones because I'm always I was trying to do look, I have another podcast called Red Wine and Flicks that I'm barely working on. I need to do it more often.
Ooh,
Yeah, where I just sip some red wine and I talk about different movies and in the philosophical way. Like I just talk about what I feel like it has to do because I feel like movies and shows have something to do with day life, but I only talk about
yeah.
shows and movies that stand out to me. So I just
Oh,
so you made me think
I love
about
that.
that. Yeah, yeah. I need to, and that's the thing is like I felt guilty about starting because I'm like I don't even know if I have time to do it, but I'm going to probably get a schedule because that's what it's about, right? Getting a schedule and say,
Yeah.
okay, this one you're doing once a month, and the other one you're doing once a week. So then that's how you that's how you get stuff done.
Mhm.
Um, so the last question is, what's a saying or quote that you go by?
I'm not a mess. I'm just human.
There we go. There you have it. That's
Exactly.
right.
I'm not a mess. I'm just human.
She's just human, y'all. She found her way and she's living out loud. So I want to thank everybody for coming onto the pod. I mean, thank Tamika for coming on the pod. Thank everybody for coming on the pod and listening to me. And look, y'all, I was up last night watching the information, watching the debate stuff, and I'm tired, y'all. But y'all know what I'm saying. So make sure you subscribe and share. And thanks for rocking with me.
Well, thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this conversation.